Is your child really safe in their bedroom? Think about that for a second. You might think the door's closed, the homework is done, and the Wi-Fi is just there for games or schoolwork. But what if I told you that right now they could be just a few clicks away from the darkest corners of the internet? Places where illegal drugs, weapons, stolen identities, and even human trafficking are just another transaction. Welcome to the dark web. And if you think this is some distant hacker only zone, then think again. Welcome back to the On the Verge YouTube channel. And in today's episode, we're diving deep into a world that few understand, but one that's impacting more young people than ever before. So what is the dark web? Let's start by breaking it down. The internet isn't just one big space, it's layered. At the top you've got what most of us use every day, and that's the surface web. That's your Instagram feed, your Google searches, your YouTube videos. If you can find it with a regular search engine, it's a surface web. Next is the deep web, which sounds shady, but it isn't necessarily. So this includes content that isn't indexed by search engines. So that will be things like your email inbox, online banking, NHS medical records, university databases, government archives. These areas are password protected for a reason. They're private, but not illegal. Now, beneath that, that's where things get a little bit darker, and this is the dark web. Now, the dark web isn't just a spooky myth, it's a real part of the internet. The dark web isn't just a spooky myth, it's a real part of the internet. But one that you can't just stumble onto. You need special software to access it. Most commonly a browser called Tor, which is Tor, which stands for the onion router. So Tor works by bouncing your data across multiple servers around the world, masking your location and identity. So what you see online and what others can see about you is scrambled and anonymous. Now, this technology wasn't made for criminals. It was actually developed by the US Navy to protect sensitive government communications. And yes, it still serves important purposes today. It's used by journalists, activists, and whistleblowers who need to communicate safely under oppressive regimes. But like any powerful tool, Tor has been co-opted and in many cases corrupted. Now, in the UK, the National Crime Agency, so the NCA, has called the dark web a breeding ground for serious criminal activity. Why, you may ask? Because its anonymity makes it nearly impossible to trace users. That's why it's become a hotspot for illegal markets, trafficking, grooming, and exploitation. Think of it like the back alley of the internet, where the lights are off, the CCTV is down, and almost anything goes. You won't find dark web content on Google. You won't access it through Chrome or Safari. You need Tor or similar software and the knowledge to use it. Now, that used to be a barrier in itself, but today kids as young as 12 are sharing dark web links on Reddit, Discord, TikTok, and Snapchat. You don't have to be a hacker anymore. The gateway now is disturbingly easy to find. And in the UK, the accessibility is a growing concern. According to the Internet Watch Foundation, so the IWF, there's been a huge spike in self-generated child sexual abuse content, much of which is circulated through dark web forums, and these are British children being manipulated, coerced, or tricked into filming themselves, sometimes in their own bedrooms, by perpetrators hiding behind untraceable IP addresses. And what they don't realise is once the footage is out there, it's nearly impossible to remove. In fact, the IWF reported that the UK was among the top 3 countries for hosting websites containing child sexual abuse material as recently as 2023. Let that sink in. That's not just happening abroad, it's happening here on UK servers using UK victims and shared through dark web networks. Meanwhile, UK-based cybercrime operations have uncovered everything from drug trafficking to fake passport services to illegal weapons deals. All of these have been coordinated anonymously through dark net markets. These platforms operate like Amazon, product listing, reviews, delivery options, except instead of buying books or gadgets, people are buying Class A drugs, malware kits, and access to hacked bank accounts. For young people in the UK, the dark web is no longer just some abstract hidden corner of the internet. It's being spoken about in playgrounds, whispered in WhatsApp chats, and casually mentioned on YouTube comment threads. Some are lured by curiosity, others are targeted by predators posing as friends, and some actually stumble in without even knowing what they're accessing, just clicking on a link that promises free stuff, cheats for video games, or a dare from a peer. So here's the hard truth: the dark web is real, it's active, and in the UK it's getting more accessible to our children than ever before. This is why we need to understand, and parents and carers need to understand what is going on. And unlike the myths that might have surrounded it a decade ago, today's version isn't just about dodgy film downloads or conspiracy theories. It's a fully functioning ecosystem of illegal activity, exploitation, and danger. And once someone steps into it, it can be very, very hard to come back out unscathed. So, how easy is it to access the dark web? So, even more worrying is that once a child installs something like the Tor browser, they're effectively invisible to the average parent or carer, invisible to school or internet providers. Most parental control software doesn't pick up on Tor usage. It masks browsing history and reroutes traffic through multiple encrypted servers, making it nearly impossible to trace. Now, that means a young person could be exploring some of the darkest corners of the internet from their bedroom while their parents think they're watching Netflix or doing homework. There's no flashy red flag or warning sign that says your child is now entering the most dangerous part of the internet. There's none of that. So don't think you would get a warning, because there isn't. Just, you have to understand, just a quiet double click and they're in. And it doesn't stop there. Once a child is on the dark web, it's incredibly easy to stumble across illegal or harmful content. Unlike the surface web, which I'd explained earlier, where search engines filter results and platforms have, well, at least some moderation, the dark web is a wild, unregulated space. No filters, no pop-up warnings, just uncensored access to anything. Drugs, weapons, exploitation, illegal pornography, counterfeit money, extremist content. The list goes on and on. And children don't need to go looking for it directly. Often, just clicking the wrong link in a dark web directory can take them somewhere horrifying. It's like handing a 13-year-old the keys to a nightclub with no bouncers, no rules, and every kind of danger behind every door. Yeah. Now, what can children find there? I'll give you a little glimpse earlier. So, what a child can actually find on the dark web, you need to brace yourself for this. So, drugs. Not just marijuana or pills, but hard substances cut like cocaine, heroin, even fentanyl, all available for male wear. Weapons, everything from knives to illegal firearms, fake IDs and passports, hacked Netflix accounts, stolen credit card numbers. But that's not even the worst of it. There are forums dedicated to violence, torture and child abuse. Sites that host unthinkable content. Chat rooms where adults pose as children looking for vulnerable young users. Hitmen for hire scams. And yes, human trafficking rings operating in plain sight. All cloaked behind an encrypted layers, making it merely impossible for authorities to trace them in real time. Now, children who wander into these spaces may not fully understand what they're looking at or how dangerous it is, but exposure alone can be deeply damaging. The imagery, the language, the ideology, it can desensitize young minds and draw them into toxic, exploitative worlds. Again, we always touch on the grooming and exploitation. So, once on the dark web, predators use encrypted forums and marketplaces to share tactics, trade material, and sometimes even sell access to victims. These are entire communities built around the exploitation of children, hiding behind usernames, encryption, and untraceable cryptocurrency. Some groomers pose as teenagers themselves, creating fake personas to build trust and empathy with their targets. Excuse me. Once a child is drawn in, these predators often escalate the relationship, moving quickly from casual conversation to coercion. And because the dark web operates in the shadows, law enforcement agencies often struggle to detect and shut down these networks before real harm is done. Now, sometimes it begins with praise, gifts, or promises offering validation that a vulnerable young person might not be getting elsewhere. For children with low self-esteem, those early stages of grooming can feel like friendship or even love. But what follows often is deeply traumatic, coerced nudity, exposure to extreme content, and a growing sense of isolation. Victims can feel trapped, ashamed, and terrified of the consequences if they speak up. And all of this can happen while the child is sitting just a few feet away from their parents and carers, right in the supposed safety of their own bedroom. So, we have now the what we will call the dopamine trap, and you will have heard me speak about this on previous videos. Now, here's the kicker. The more shocking the content, the bigger the dopamine spike. That's what makes the dark web particularly dangerous for teenagers. They're not just chasing entertainment, they're chasing extremes. Some are looking for the gory stuff, others are for forbidden knowledge, others for taboo experiences they wouldn't dare talk about in real life. But Each time they find something shocking, the brain lights up with a chemical reward. Over time, though, it takes more to get the same rush. What used to be scary now feels normal. What desensitization creates a craving for even worse material and content. That's where things get dangerous. Children start digging deeper down darker rabbit holes until they're in a digital space no one their age should ever be in or see. In fact, studies in neuroscience have shown that adolescent brains are more sensitive to rewards and less capable of long-term risk assessment than adult brains. These this means teenagers are more likely to engage in impulsive behavior without fully grasping the consequences. When the dark web becomes a playground of adrenaline and mystery, it can easily override the logical part of their mind that says this is wrong or this could hurt someone. And once that line is crossed, whether it's accessing illegal material or talking to a predator or even being groomed into sharing something of themselves, the psychological damage can be irreversible. The dark web doesn't just hijack dopamine, it hijacks judgment, values, and emotional stability. For some young people, the scars it leaves are lifelong. So, the legal age and loopholes. It's interesting because there's no central authority controlling access to the dark web. Not from what I found. Traditional safeguarding simply doesn't apply. On mainstream platforms like Instagram or YouTube, age restrictions may exist, although we understand they're not adhered to, but they're often easy to bypass. On the dark web, those protections don't even exist in theory. A child can follow a Reddit thread, click on a hidden wiki, download Tor, and within minutes be navigating forums designed for criminals. Places that openly sell drugs, weapons, or even offer services like hacking or fake IDs, all without needing to prove their identity or age. This lack of gatekeeping is what makes the dark web so uniquely dangerous, especially in the UK where digital safeguarding, the policies are still trying to catch up with the rapid evolution of online threats. It's always a step behind, it would seem. What's even more alarming is the fact that once a child is exposed to illegal or disturbing content on the dark web, it's incredibly difficult to get justice or support. Law enforcement in the UK faces real challenges when trying to track down perpetrators operating behind encrypted layers of anonymized IP addresses. There are countless loopholes where it comes to accountability. A predator grooming a child from another country may never face UK prosecution due to the jurisdiction issues. And many children are too frightened or ashamed to tell anybody, especially if they're being manipulated into sending images or engaging in illegal activity themselves. I'm sure they're working on this, but these gaps in the law combined with the technical barriers to detection mean that predators operate with alarming confidence while victims remain hidden in plain sight. So, are our children really safe? We live in a digital age where bedrooms have become gateways to the world. Not just the good parts, but the darkest corners too. Children can access graphic content, illegal marketplaces, and manipulative strangers who all without leaving their beds. And what makes this even more dangerous is the illusion of privacy. Parents may glance at a screen and see game or chat app unaware that their child is using VPNs, encrypted browsers like Tor, or even second devices to access hidden parts of the internet. These platforms are built to look ordinary on the surface, but underneath they conceal an entire underground ecosystem designed to evade detection. Even more unsettling is the emotional and psychological impact these can have on young minds. Children might encounter content they're not emotionally equipped to process: violence, exploitation, drug sales, or extremist ideologies before they even understand what they're even looking at. Some may be drawn in by the adrenaline rush or a sense of rebellion, but that curiosity can lead to desensitization or trauma. Others may be exposed to grooming or manipulation without realizing they're being exploited. The danger isn't just what children might see, it's what they might come to accept as normal. The only way to truly keep children safe is through open conversations, firm digital boundaries, and active parental awareness. So, what needs to change? Uh, wow. We need stronger laws and enforcement. Governments must invest more in cybercrime units that aren't just reactive but proactive teams with the tools, training, and resources to trace and prosecute the criminals operating in the shadows of the dark web. This includes better international cooperation because these crimes don't respect borders. And as for tech companies, they need to stop hiding behind policies and start taking real responsibility. How does that look? Well, that means investing in AI that doesn't just recommend content but protects users. It means working with safeguarding experts, not just profit analysts. But beyond policy and policing, we need a cultural shift, a shift that starts at home, at school, and in our everyday conversations. Schools must teach digital literacy as a core subject, not a side lesson. Children and young people should be learning about the risks of dark web with the same urgency we teach them about drugs, alcohol, and consent. And know that brings its dangers also. They need to understand the difference between the surface web, the deep web, and the dark web. But more importantly, why some corners of the internet aren't just dangerous but deliberately harmful. And as parents know, we need you as well. We know it's not easy. Of course it's not. Parenting isn't easy. Technology is constantly evolving and it can feel like your child knows more about it than you do. But this is not a space where we can afford to just sit back. Online safety isn't a one-off chat. It needs to be an ongoing, open conversation. Start by asking questions without judgment. What apps are they using? Who are they talking to online? What kinds of things are they seeing or being exposed to? Create an environment where your child knows they can come to you even if they've made a mistake, and you'll help, not punish. Use parental controls where appropriate, but don't rely on them alone. Teach your children because certain content is harmful. Help them understand grooming tactics, emotional manipulation, and how traffickers or perpetrators can use platforms, even seemingly innocent ones, to build trust before exploiting it. They also need to check in regularly, not just about screen time but screen content. Be curious, watch what they're watching, learn their digital language. If they're spending hours on their phone or computer in private, that's not an automatic red flag. but it's a reason to check in with empathy and care. And perhaps most importantly, remind them that the most dangerous thing about the dark web is not just what they might find, it's that it often finds them. Whether it's through a shared link, a Discord invite, a message on Snapchat, or a game chat, children can be lured in without even knowing where they're headed. There's no legal age to access the dark web, because dark web by nature doesn't ask for ID. But that's exactly the problem. That's why we have to be the gatekeepers. Children need trusted adults to model healthy tech use, to ask the uncomfortable questions, and to show up even when it's awkward or hard. This isn't just about preventing worst case scenarios. It's about building resilience, critical thinking, and the kind of emotional literacy that helps kids say something doesn't feel right and they walk away. So, yes, we need better laws, we need better tech, but we also need better conversations, because when it comes to the dark web and the internet in general, silence is never safety. So most of you know that I always do a final thought, so I'll leave it here. The dark web isn't just a mysterious corner of the internet. It's one of the most dangerous digital environments that exists today. It's a place where anonymity can shield the worst of human behaviour, and where illegal activities thrive just beneath the surface of everyday online lives. And the most alarming part, it's more accessible than ever before. Our children are stepping into this hidden world, curious, impressionable, and often completely unaware of the risks. They aren't equipped with the tools or knowledge to navigate it safely, and in many cases, the adults around them aren't either. They're walking into a world without a map, without guidance, and without protection. That's not just unfortunate, it's actually unacceptable. The danger of the dark web isn't up for debate, and what matters now is how we respond. We can't protect children with fear or silence. We need education. We need open, honest, and sometimes uncomfortable conversations. And we need to be proactive, not reactive. When it comes to their digital safety. So, if you've made it this far, I'll ask you this. Do you really know what your child is doing online? Are you asking the right questions? Having the right conversations and creating a space where they feel safe enough to come to you? At On The Verge, we believe in empowering families with the truth, no matter how difficult it is to hear. Because awareness is protection, and silence is permission. So, thank you for watching. If this video gave you something to think about, please like, comment and subscribe. More importantly, share it with other parents and carers, a teacher, or anyone who works with young people, because the conversation can't just stop here. The safety of our children depends on what we do and what we do next. Until next time, take care.